Alright, so I'm Ryan, otherwise known as the Man in His Music, and today I'm going to discuss some of the deals that I've gotten on records within the past 3 to 4 years now, both in person and online. So by in person I mean like yard sales, digs, if I went to somebody's property or something like that and went through records. And along with that comes stories and, to explain how I wound up getting something that crazy. I mean, enough to include in this video. And then if I got something online, I'm probably referring to eBay or maybe an auction site or something like that. So anyway, I got a stack here. I'm going to tell you how much I paid for them, and I'm going to tell you how I wound up getting them. And they definitely vary in price point and also rarity, because, rare records aren't always expensive records in my opinion. So anyway, my first record here is James Brown, Directs and Dances with the James Brown Band, The Popcorn. I paid $1 for this at a yard sale, and I got to the yard sale late in the day. I think it was like around 12 o'clock, and this was still in, he had this huge bin of just junk records, like soundtracks, stuff from the 50s, from the 60s, and then this was in there, and it was a King pressing. I actually have it on the table right now. It's a club pressing actually, but it's, on the label King. So I was really happy to get this. Anything by James Brown is definitely worth picking up, and I was glad to get more of like a funky. It's definitely different from many of the James Brown records you would think of, because there's no vocals here. It's just the James Brown Band, and that's why I like it, because I kind of throw it in the mix with my jazz records, because that's what I tend to lean towards with collecting. So got that for $1. And then my next one here is Miles Davis, Roundabout Midnight. Everybody knows this classic. This is a VG Plus copy all around. I got this for $25 free shipping, probably 2 years ago now, and I really have nothing else to say to it, because we all know how good this album is, but to get it for $25 even, really, because I think it was $25 even, like I said, free shipping, an original mono 6i. That just doesn't happen anymore. This record probably goes for above $100 in this condition. So for $25, that's a definite steal in my opinion. Alright, so here's my next record here. Charles Mingus, Mingus. I got this from a yard sale for $1. A yard sale that I go to all the time. Someone who knows his stuff. He always, he pulls his blue notes out before he puts them in the bins. He puts them on eBay and they go for crazy amounts. But he overlooked this, and I'm glad he did, because this turned out to be an amazing copy. It was still in those plastic baggies that Columbia put the records in, where you had to peel away the top to take the record out and everything. And, when I seen it, I didn't hesitate. I didn't look at the condition or anything. I just went up to him with a few other records. I paid $1 for this, got home, cleaned it, and put it on my table. So, original mono 6i. I'm not sure of the pressing plant, but it is a deep groove. If it makes a difference, because I think the numbers do at the bottom of these covers, it has the number 6 at the bottom. So I don't know if I think that determines certain pressing plant. But I was really happy to get this from him, because I didn't want to get a new reissue of this, because I know that for one, there's tons of them, so it's definitely hard to make a good choice. But I know that there's also a lot of crappy pressings. I've heard Mike from the In Groove. He talks about how this record has a lot of crappy pressings that don't sound good, and then there's also a few that do sound good. But how are you gonna really determine which ones they are when there's 30 of them to pick from? So glad I got an original mono 6i. I'd probably say it was VG++ condition, close to excellent. So I was just glad to get that instead of a new reissue. So then here's my next one here. Hank Mobley, High Voltage. I paid $25 for this, free shipping, VG Plus all around. Actually, I'd say near mint, because it's got no marks, maybe a few hairlines or something like that, but it's got the wax hair still on the side of the record, and then also in the center, the spindle hole, there's also a wax hair poking out between those two. So I was really happy to get this for a decent deal, rather than paying, I think it goes for around a little over $100. So $25 free shipping for a stereo copy, near mint condition. I think the only gripe I had was the catalog number. Somebody's collection, they put their own catalog number at the top here. So I'm really lucky with the Hank Mobley records. I have two others here that I'm going to show you, but this was one that I really wanted it just because of the lineup. I mean, Blue Mitchell, and around this time he was going all out. It's something you wanted to get in your life. Any Blue Mitchell record from the the Liberty era of Blue Note, it's amazing. It's overlooked. They're usually affordable. This one was one of the more expensive ones, so I'm glad I picked this up. I got that off of eBay too, so I definitely hopped on it before anybody else did. I probably got it like within seconds of when it posted, because any Hank Mobley record, you would think it would just go like that, but I got to it and I was really lucky too. Alright, so here's my next two records, Hank Mobley's Roll Call and Mobley's Message, both original mono pressings, and I really have no words to explain how grateful I am to own both of these, and to find them in the same antique store in a town in Texas. I'm not going to name the town because there's still some records there that I missed that the guy wouldn't sell to me. I missed Coltrane's 7105, his debut as a leader, and then I also missed Chet Baker Sings, the 10-inch on Pacific Jazz, and then I also missed Dexter Blows Hot and Cool on Dutone, which I think was a second pressing, because I think the first pressing was the red translucent vinyl that they were doing back in the day. But while I was upset that I missed those, especially 7105, because I'm in love with Coltrane, I want to have all his original pressings, but I learned and I came to be content with just the two of these, because these are extremely rare, extremely expensive. I'm never going to get an experience like that again in my life, I'd say, because this is what kicked off an addiction. After this, I just went into Blue Note, I went into Prestige. I was listening to, I ventured further out rather than just the top 10 jazz records of all time. And this was really the top. Like, I think before this, I just had, $50 records, $100 records, but both of these I'd say are around $1,000 because they're both VG++. This Mobley's Message is definitely in better condition than Roll Call, because the jacket for Roll Call definitely has some wear to it, but the vinyl it's not spotless, but it's definitely got some hairlines, and then maybe like one feelable mark, which doesn't make noise for but maybe 3 or 4 seconds. So I'm just really glad to get these out there, and like I said, this kicked off an addiction. This is why I'm into jazz as much as I am, despite the fact that these probably aren't my favorite jazz records of all time. I'd probably say that Mobley's Message, I favor this more than Roll Call, but both of these are blow-in sessions. They're great sessions. Hank Mobley is a great tenor saxophonist, underrated despite the fact that, his records are sold all the time. They're on the Blue Note Classic series. Everybody knows about Hank Mobley, but I think it's important to venture further than, just his Blue Note catalog, because Mobley's Message is a damn good album. One that I didn't really know of. Actually, I did know of this a couple weeks before I found it, because I was watching a YouTube video and someone brought it up, and I was just like, man, like I'd like to have that record. And then a couple weeks later, I got to Texas and I found this out there in an antique store right next to Roll Call. So just, I have no words. Like I said before, this isn't something that happens all the time. It's not going to happen again, I'm pretty sure. So I'm just grateful that I got the experience to find both of these right next to each other, especially in the condition that they were. And actually, along with those two, I also found Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers with Thelonious Monk. I think it was like the first record that I found. I think before I found the two Hank Mobley records, and I knew this is a good album. I seen that this got a reissue on Atlantic in 2022, but before that, I really wasn't thinking of getting a reissue or anything before I found this. So I got this out there too, but it's not in the same condition as the other two. I think it's about G+, I'd say, and that's why I have it in the paper sleeve. But the guy that had these records, that gave them, or how somehow they ended up in this antique store, his name was Abe Brooks, and he just had amazing taste, because the other records that I named that I missed in that same record store were also his. His name was on the back of them. So whoever he was, he had amazing taste. Especially if he was living in Texas, because in Texas in the 60s and the 50s, they were listening to country music and stuff. So just really glad to get some great heavy hitters in an antique store for a really good deal, because I think I forgot to mention, I actually only paid $100 for around 12 records that I brought up to the guy, and he was looking them up on eBay, but I had the junk on the top and then the good stuff at the bottom. So he looked up like some Buck Owens and Beach Boys, and he didn't think nothing of these 3 records. I mean, he looked through them and seen the covers and everything, but he didn't think anything of them being expensive or anything like that. So I paid $100 for 12 records, and it's well below what I came out with, what I could have made a profit with. But I'll never sell these records, because just the experience that I got with them, finding them, the story and everything. And they're also just great sessions that I probably won't ever find again. So to continue, here's the eBay find that I got, I'd say last year, 2022, early 2022. I got a promo stereo copy of Meditations, so an original. It has the suffix, I think, yeah. And that's when they were doing the suffix on the Impulse. So like 66, 65, after Love Supreme. This is an amazing session, but it's definitely overlooked, probably because of its intensity. But I love this album, mostly for the fact of what it kind of symbolized, because Elvin Jones and McCoy Tyner both, they were getting ready for their departure, and their departure was really on this album, because after that you had Rashad Ali and Alice Coltrane take over Coltrane's ideas, and I think it really fit for what Coltrane was trying to achieve. But this record symbolized an ending of the great classic quartet that Coltrane had with Elvin Jones, Jimmy Garrison, and McCoy Tyner, and that's why I love this record. I have 3 copies of this. I have this original stereo promo, and then I also have the Rainbow like 70-ish label. And then I have an original mono pressing, but it's not in the greatest condition. So I was glad to get this for a really great deal. I paid $35 for this. I think that it was like $45 or best offer, and I sent $35. And I think it was like 2 minutes, and then they accepted it. And it was from an inexperienced seller, so I messaged them. I let them know. I wanted to see if they could ship it with the record on the outside, and they shipped it perfectly. They must have done their research, because they told me that they didn't really have any idea before I told them. So I was really glad to get this. Jacket's in VG++ condition. The record is near mint all around. Honestly, I kind of see why they wouldn't play this on a radio station, or whatever use promotional copies would have, because this album is intense. It's definitely not for everyone, but if you're an experienced listener, or you want to venture further out into maybe Coltrane's discography or just free jazz in general, I think this is a great record, because at times it's intense, but then other times it's very melodic, and you can hear the elements of the classic quartet that Coltrane used to have before this. So love this record. I'm glad I got it for a deal. And it was actually, I got the other 2 prior to getting that, so maybe I'll get rid of the other 2. But anyway, here's my next one, Cooking with the Miles Davis Quintet. I got this on an auction for $35. Nobody outbid me or anything. There was somebody that placed their first bid, but then I placed a second bid, and then nobody outbid me. I was ready to, place another bid, but nobody outbid me, so I wasn't worried. And this is a record that probably would go for maybe upwards of $100, maybe close to $200. It's not an original mono pressing. It's the second pressing on the Bergen Fireworks label, and I'd say it's mid-grade for VG+, because there's some noise here and there. I think it's got some needle damage, but once you get into close to the inner side of the record, it almost disappears. So I was glad to get this for a deal. And then I also got this other record from the same seller, Miles Davis, Someday My Prince Will Come, $25. No outbids or anything. I was the only bid. I placed it at 2 seconds or something like that, and I wound up getting this. It was graded at VG, but it was definitely VG++. More accurate than Cooking with Miles Davis Quintet, because they had that graded at VG+, but this was graded at VG, and like I said, this was VG++. So this is an amazing session. I love it for the fact that that track T.O. is on here, and I think that Coltrane, you can really hear how far that he came. This was after he did Giant Steps, but you can see how he's not meant to be a sideman anymore. He's meant to, venture out on his own with his own ideas and everything, because he definitely strays far from the pack in terms of talent, because I think he's better than Miles Davis at this point. He's better than Hank Mobley, who also appears on this album. Maybe that's a controversial statement, but I believe it, honestly. But this is just an amazing session. It's actually 2 sessions, I'd say, because Coltrane appears on 2 tracks, T.O. and Someday My Prince Will Come, and then the other tenor that subs in for him is Hank Mobley. Just an amazing session. I'm glad I got it for the price I paid, because it is an original mono pressing, unless the original mono doesn't have the CBS at the top of the label. But glad I got that, especially from the same seller too, nonetheless, because I just paid combined shipping. So then here's my next one, Wheelin' and Dealin', solid VG copy that I paid $25 for. This is another best offer that I sent. I think he had it on there for like 45 or something like that, but got this. Plays wonderfully, actually, especially, there's some noise in the beginning, but then once it gets to the inner side of the record, like I said with Cookin', it just disappears and there's nothing there. But I think this record is actually neat because it looks like something like chomped a bit out of the bottom, and while I wish it didn't look like that, it's definitely neat because the back of the cover looks spotless. There's nothing wrong with it. Maybe just some seam damage at the top, but it's spotless. The laminate looks perfect still. I'll show you how shiny it is. You can see just how perfect that looks. So I was definitely kind of upset at the fact that it had the bite out of it, but I knew it when I bought it, so it's not like I could really do anything, or it's not like I was going to return it, So then here's my next record that I got from a yard sale for $1. Everybody Digs Bill Evans. It's not a first pressing that has the red text. It's the one that has the black text, and it's the turquoise label. So I think this would probably be like a 3rd or 4th pressing. I'm not too sure, but it's near mint all around. It's still in the shrink. I don't even think the guy played it. Maybe he, because he definitely put his owner's stamp on it that they were doing back in the day, but got this from the yard sale for $1. I think I bought like 50 records for $1 each, so I just paid this lady $50 even. And I got a lot of great records. They weren't all to that caliber of, Bill Evans, but, Kai Winding, J.J. Johnson, stuff like that. Johnny Smith, although Johnny Smith is really good, but that was my top find out of that yard sale. So then here's another one that I got, working with the Miles Davis Quintet. I wanted this for a long time. I had an OJC copy that was digitally sourced, so I was glad I could get an original of it. I paid $35 for this, and I actually got this recently, and it was graded G+ to VG, I'd say, if I can remember correctly, but it's actually VG++, so, this is an album that would probably go for around close to $200, I'd say, but it's spotless. It's just got those few faint hairline marks that Prestige pressings were definitely infamous for, but it sounds amazing, and there's no spindle wear to indicate wear or anything. So glad I got this for a deal. The record looks way better than the cover. There's some staining on the cover, but $35 I think is a perfect deal for this, and it doesn't get any better than that, especially nowadays, because like I said, this is an expensive record, and it would definitely fetch way more than what I paid for it. So then here's another one I probably could have included this earlier, but Billie Holiday, Jazz at the Philharmonic. This is a 10-inch record on Clef Records. I paid nothing for this. I went to a yard sale. I met this guy. I think his name was Dan or Fred, and he was amazing. He was talking to me about music, not really this side of jazz, but like Frank Sinatra. He was talking to me about, but I got to talking to him, and I told him about what I liked, what I was looking for, and I bought a bunch of records from his yard sale for 50 cents each, a bunch of Frank Sinatra records. His hearing was going bad, and he had to kind of get rid of a lot of his records. And this wasn't one that he was going to get rid of, but he heard me talking about Billie Holiday, and I was talking about the song Strange Fruit, and I think he just seen the amount of passion that I had, and he just kind of, I don't really know, it was an indescribable moment, but he came out, he told me he was going to get something for me, and then he came out with this, and then, well, he wasn't going to give it to me yet, but he was going to show me, so he came out with Billie Holiday, Jazz at the Philharmonic, and then he also came out with Mingus on Debut Records. I forget the name of it. I think it was just Mingus Moods or something like that, but he came out with both of those, let me look at them, and then I was talking to him about Strange Fruit, and then, like I said, it was an indescribable moment, and then he ended up giving this to me, and I didn't even really know what to say. I thanked him and everything, and that was that. So I got home and put this on my table, and it sent chills down my spine when I heard it, as a lot of other recordings that I've gotten. But this is definitely one of my favorites in my collection. Not one that I spin all the time, just given the fact that it's kind of rare. It's in mint condition. It's in one of those cardboard sleeve things, so I really wanted to take care of it, and he definitely took care of it too with that. So got that from him, and as well as 30 other records, but they didn't really match the feeling I got from this. So then my next record is going to be A Love Supreme by John Coltrane. This is a mono pressing, almost said original mono pressing, but it's actually a club pressing that I got from my local flea market that I go to. I don't go to it all the time now, but when I did get this, I went to it all the time, and someone accidentally put it out in the bins, and I only had $8 on me at the time, and this guy that I met in the record store, he gave me an extra couple bucks so I could get both this, A Love Supreme, and then John Coltrane, Sunship. So he gave me those $2, and then I got this, and then John Coltrane, Sunship. And after that, I was just addicted to A Love Supreme and Sunship, because that's an amazing album. But this is what changed my listening. I can't even recall how many times I've listened to this. I listened to this going into 2022, like from the new year. I listened to this so many times. When I'm feeling down, or maybe I want to celebrate something, or I'm happy, I'll put this on, and definitely just gives me a lot of joy. So while this is a club mono pressing, I wish I had an original mono pressing to hear the Van Gelder treatment that it got, for that recording, because there was some issues with the original master tape where it cut out on one side, and they had to fix it. So I don't know if it may sound a lot better in the Van Gelder pressing, which I'm sure it does, but this also sounds amazing. This was done by Capitol Records, because they were doing the club pressings at that time, and I really can't get over even the fact that I have this, despite that it's not an original. But I also have this, and then I have the Acoustic Sounds pressing, so I definitely play this a lot more, though. So that's going to be my first part. I'm going to do a part 2 to this, because there's a lot of records that I got a lot of deals on within the past couple years. I've been collecting for 3 to 4 years, I'd say, and I think all my deals kind of came to me after my first year, because I learned what to look for, where to go to find records, and I think on eBay too, you really have to kind of get a gist of how to find deals. Like, you gotta have your saved searches, you gotta have everything lined up perfectly, so it all comes to you when you open the app up. And I'd say most of my deals have probably come from eBay, but my experiences and my stories, like my memorable experiences, have come from finding records in person, meeting amazing people, hearing just amazing stories, and then making amazing stories too. So anyway, that's my first part. Thank you everybody for watching. The support too. I have the YouTube Studio app, and I just see so many amazing comments. I've replied to a lot of them, but then I haven't had time to reply to at least the recent ones. So I'm definitely going to take the time and reply to everybody, because I definitely love reading everybody's comments and seeing the support that I get, because it's an amazing thing to know that not only am I showing new music to people, but I've definitely gotten a lot of feedbacks saying that I've taught people a lot of like amazing things about jazz. I've gotten them into jazz a lot more, and that's an indescribable feeling, like I was talking about earlier. So just thank everybody for watching, and I'm gonna put my part 2 up to this probably within the next week. So thank you.